Right, we'll move to our next session, which is leveraging ID for multi-sectoral transformation globally, how digital identity-led digital public infrastructure enables multi-sectoral transformation across health, social protection, and service delivery, drawing on real-world case studies. I would like to welcome our moderator, Zeena Fruitwala from COSS, and request her to welcome all the people who are part of this panel discussion. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. As our panelists take their seats, I thought I will start with an introduction. So my name is Zeena Fruitwala, and I lead the delivery function for Center for Open Societal Systems, which is part of IIITB Bangalore. Today, we are here to discuss on a panel leveraging the foundational IDs for multi-sectoral transformation globally. Across the world, countries are investing in foundational identification systems, not simply as tools for identification, but as critical infrastructure for development. A robust, inclusive foundational ID can unlock access to services, improve governance, and strengthen accountability, and enable innovation across sectors as diverse as health, education, finance, and digital public services. But the real question before us today is not whether foundational IDs matter. It is how they can be leveraged responsibly and effectively to drive multi-sectoral transformation. How do we ensure these systems are inclusive, interoperable, and trusted? How do we balance scale with privacy, innovation with regulation, and efficiency with equity? And most importantly, how do we design ID systems that work for people and not the other way around? This esteemed panel today brings together perspectives from working across sectors to explore these questions, share lessons from practice, and examine what it takes to move ID as a standalone system to ID as an enabler of national transformation. I'm looking forward to a practical discussion today and to the insights our panelists will share on what has worked and what hasn't and what lies ahead. So with that, I'd like to introduce our panelists for today. We have Mr. Noureddine Boutayeb. It's my honor, Mr. Boutayeb, to invite you to this panel. He is the president of the Moroccan Preschool Education. He began his professional career in the private sector and later joined the civil service following his appointment by His Majesty King Mohamed VI as Director of Rural Affairs at the Ministry of the Interior. He held several roles in the Interior Ministry as General Director of Local Authorities, General Secretary, and Minister Delegate. He is, like I said, now the President of the Preschool Foundation, which he does with a lot of commitment, passion, and determination. We have Ramesh, who is the CEO for Center of Open Societal Systems. So COSS, we call it COSS. COSS is a digital public infrastructure co-creation journey partner for countries and organizations driving equitable and inclusive societal transformation. COSS offers trusted technical stewardship and collaboratively develops digital solutions that advance the global adoption of digital public goods. With more than 30 years of experience in internet and enterprise software and services across India, US, and Asia, Ramesh has held senior leadership positions in startups, mid-sized firms, and large multinational enterprises, including EMC, Dell, Akamai, and Trilogy Software. He has led major digital transformation programs for the governments and Fortune 500 companies. Welcome, Ramesh. It's also my pleasure to invite Ravi Chaturvedi from the World Bank. Ravi is the manager for digital applications in the Digital Vice Presidency of the World Bank. He leads experts driving the bank's knowledge and strategy agenda to accelerate the digitalization of productive sectors, foster local digital industries and ecosystems, expand digital delivery and social services such as healthcare and education, and strengthen user trust and safety. Ravi also brings extensive private sector experience in emerging markets, financial services, and strategy across the Middle East, North Africa, South Asia, and Southeast Asia. Welcome, Ravi. We also have Mr. Mohamed Guenoun from MedTech, Morocco. Mr. Guenoun serves as the innovation manager for the group, where he leads the definition and execution of the innovation roadmap with a strong focus on artificial intelligence. Under his leadership, multiple AI-based solutions have been successfully deployed into production, addressing real-world operational challenges at scale. Welcome, Mr. Guenoun. It's also my pleasure to invite Dipika Prasad. She is the product lead for digital public infrastructure at Google Cloud. She and her team helped to build technologies that helped governments offer inclusive, population-scale digital services in sectors like agriculture, livelihood, and commerce. Her work specializes in open networks and the Gemini-powered AI agents that make them accessible to citizens in 70+ languages. Welcome, all of you. Okay, so with that, we will get right down to the panel discussion. My first question will be to Ramesh. So Ramesh, I know at COSS we do a lot of things with regard to DPIs and DPGs. What are some critical learnings from the multi-sectoral DPI journeys of countries like Morocco, Brazil, and other countries that COSS has worked with that you can share with this audience today?
So as you said, I think COSS, just like MOSIP does in ID, which is stay with you from the start of the journey all the way till it gets rolled out. We take it one level higher, right, in terms of when you cut across the application spaces. So we work with education, capacity building, agriculture are some of the DPIs we work on. I think in the journeys that we've had, both from our mistakes as well as some successes, I would say the number one thing, and everything I'm going to tell you is not rocket science. It's fairly simple, but getting it done is actually much harder than that. First, number one is, I think, political will and vision of the adopter is the number one criteria for success. So I can give you the example of, we worked with FMPS over the last year to build a learning management system, which provides actually micro-learning. And the goal and the vision that Mr. Boutayeb and FMPS had was that you want to accelerate the training of teachers. It's not a traditional system. It's based on micro skills and customized learning paths for individuals. Having a very clear outcome in mind, and at the same time, all these projects will go through problems, okay? And you need to have an adopter who's ready to go with you on the journey. So I think that's number one. The second thing is there were multiple partners on these projects. Again, if I go back to Morocco, Mr. Guenoun at MedTech, Google, we had Protean, we had FMPS, we had COSS, multiple partners working. Trust is actually super important, and being able to depend on each other. And again, none of these journeys are straightforward. I'm sure all of you who've gone through these know that you're going to face problems. So commitment from all the partners to motor through and fight through the problems, I think is super important. The third thing is kind of may not be intuitive, but especially countries which are not in mature journeys in DPI, you're starting off or you're in early stages, you can't develop an ecosystem post creating your DPI. You've got to identify partners, especially in the market, upfront, and take them along the journey, because there is a learning curve that everybody goes through. MedTech, for example, was part of the project right from the beginning, and even though now we've gone live and they're taking over a lot of the work, it's still not easy. So I think that is the third. Last thing I'd quickly touch on is tech is the easiest part, right? I think having the vision and the outcome focus and the governance and how you're going to take it forward, I think the policy side, all of that, especially for governments, is the most critical.
Thank you, Ramesh. No, absolutely. Second everything that you have said. I know how important it is, the policies and program side. Mr. Boutayeb, I know Ramesh mentioned the work that was done with with FMPS, but what I would like to know is, having spoken with you, and I know how passionate you are about DPIs being the way forward for countries. I know you got inspired when you came to India and you saw, the various DPIs which were in play. So why did you choose MOSIP for ID and Sunbird DPG for Project Maharat? Could you just talk to us about your experience of that journey, which is really inspiring when I heard it? Yeah.
Thank you, Zeena. I'll perhaps begin where Ramesh ends. Tech is not the problem, but we have to have really a good vision of what we want to do, and after that to trust in the partners. So when the choice of MOSIP wasn't there when we decided. I'll just give you the story very quickly. Wasn't there, but Sunbird Ed was there, and the choice was because I trusted in ICA-STEP and in COSS after that, because I will have a sure partner to do what I was visioning to do. So that's really important. So it's due to circumstances, the choice. The first, I was at that time minister, and I was looking for building a national register to launch direct ed benefit. So, and I heard about the Aadhaar experience, and I went to India to see how it was looking in the field. Not technically, that's not the problem. And I was really convinced, and there I met Nandan Nilikani, and he made me an offer. He said, look, we did Aadhaar, but we want to build something, the kernel of the system, and offer it to the world. Are you okay? I have to give an answer, and I said, I'm okay, but at one condition is to have a maintenance during 5 years, because it will be built again. If it's Aadhaar, no problem. It's work for 1 billion, more than 1 billion person. But if it's coded again, we have to have some insurance about that. But I trusted the fact that all what he will build again was already in Aadhaar. So trust in confidence in what you'll take with you, and to choose this way will make it faster to reach the solution. For Sunbird Ed, the situation was different. I heard about the development of DPI since 2017 when I went to India the first time. And when I went there, I visited the ICA-STEP, and I have a lot of meetings, and I saw there is a huge development of all these features. And I was at that time president of the preschool foundation, so I was interested in education, and I discovered Diksha, which is a huge platform in education used in India, and based on these building blocks that's called Sunbird Ed. And the question I had again from Nandan Nilikani, how can we help you to do something? I said that now it will be in education, and I said, I want to build a micro-learning platform to monitor the acquisition of my educators to acquire their competencies. And that was the beginning of a new story with Ramesh and COSS. And after a year, we are now with this platform, which is already available, and we are building the contents, and we are really, so what we have if I want to summarize, trust, choose DPG that are already used, and if you want to go to lab proven, yes, it's not, don't try to begin from something that is not really used and proven.
Right. You mentioned the learning and training management system, which is being deployed for the preschool education, and you're also looking at integrating that to the national ID. Do you want to just talk about that, because this is more about the foundational IDs? Into different sectors.
Yeah, of course. We did that, but until now, the access to the system is through logging Google Gmail. But our vision is to expand use of this system outside our foundation. And we think that to do that by another provider who is specialized in ID verification and authentication could be better. So we are now building this ID access with the national card ID to expand the use outside the FMPS. But perhaps we'll also test also with the IDCS, my first ID
first
project.
ID, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boutayeb. Ravi, the next question is to you. So as a leader in the application vertical within World Bank's digital and AI practice, you're a big proponent of registries of verifiable credentials that are sector specific, for instance, farmer IDs, farmer registries, and crop registries. Why are these critical, and how are you seeing it manifest in the context of open network stacks that World Bank is co-creating with others like Networks for Humanity Foundation and Google?
Thank you, Zeena. Let me first start with saying foundational IDs are fundamental. Foundational IDs are to the modern digital economy as we know it, and the digital economies that we want to create, in the same way that electricity is fundamental to the modern world, right? So, but for sectors to create and capture economic and societal value from productive economic sectors, and to make those sectors productive, we need to go beyond foundational IDs. So foundational IDs, which establish that you are a citizen of the land that you are, that you were born in, extremely important, right? But let's take an example, agriculture, right? I mean, farmers have several needs. I mean, from direct benefits that, come from the government to, having to buy seed, buy fertilizer, avail of tractor services, thresher services, and what have you, credit. They need access to credit. Their payday is once in a year, right? And they have to work through the year to get to that payday, right? So when you think about all these services, and if you map the life cycle, shall we say, an entire year in a farmer's life, there are many touch points that a foundational ID doesn't quite address. You need much more than that, right? So now what do we need? And we can think about this. So what do we need? We need a few things. We need to first define who a farmer is and create some kind of a registry of farmers, okay, who deserves benefits, because they are farmers, right? Second, you need to be able to connect that farmer to a patch of land, so you need some kind of land registry. And then you also need to know what they are farming, so you are able to give them the right kind of advice, the right kind of seed, the right kind of fertilizer, etc., right? So all of that is extremely important, and the foundational ID is, like I said, necessary, but not nearly sufficient, and we're only talking one use case, which is agriculture. Now, if I can do the same thing for education, I can do the same thing for the tourism sector, and so on and so forth, right? So what you need is a mechanism then, which is a verifiable credential for the profession. And let's call it, you could call it a functional ID or a functional registry. I mean, I think of these things as things that make the sector work. So what we at the bank are doing, in collaboration with Networks for Humanity and Google, is to build what we're calling open network stacks. Now, what are open network stacks? Open network stacks are basically, think of this as something that gets built on foundational digital public infrastructure that is sector specific, which takes all of these registries and turns them into valuable services. Why are they important? Because in some sense, we need to make sure that governments, when they're distributing DBT, most of it, if not all of it, gets to the end user, right? If we create a mechanism to reduce the cost of reaching these customers, more private sector actors will be able to reach them. We're able to create a viability in being able to service what we call the base of the pyramid, right? So that is the purpose of these open network stacks. Can we make farming, as Ajay Banga, our president, said on stage at the annual meetings, don't tell us it's not possible, because, and he takes India as an example. He talks about how India went in our lifetime from a milk deficient, milk poor country to the biggest producer of milk in the world. Now, if we could do that for milk, can we not do that for agriculture? We can. And technology is the way we can do it, and registries are extremely important for it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ravi. Agree with you. I mean, foundational IDs are essential but not sufficient when you go ahead and look at sectoral growth. Dipika, taking off from that, Google has taken an active role in championing DPI and AI as an approach to support governments in their digital transformation strategies. Can you tell us what inspired this vision and what are you seeing as emerging opportunities here?
Thank you, Zeena. So I'm going to paraphrase something that Mr. Nandan Nilekani says. Some of you may know him. He basically is one of the leaders behind the growth of Aadhaar and UPI in India. And when he describes the opportunity, he says it's not DPI and AI, it's actually DPI raised to the power of AI. So what AI can do is exponentially increase the impact that DPI can have. And in two ways. So one, actually make DPIs easier to build, and second, make them easier to adopt. So in some ways, I think an analog here is that governments that have built DPI and foundational ID and registries, they have created maps, incredibly detailed maps. They're well labeled. They work at very, very high resolutions. But unless you have the voice technologies that come with GPS, you can't use this map to do anything. And so that is the unlock that AI provides. So in the context of agriculture, where we're fortunate to work with partners like the World Bank, it's hard to create the kind of registries that Ravi has described, right? It's hard to individually map every single plot of land and know what's growing in it. And today, there's work that Google DeepMind, which is our research, does, which can, using geospatial AI, recognize individual plots of land and be able to identify what's growing in that land. How healthy is it? Is that plot of land prone to risks? Will it flood? What are the weather conditions like? Using which now you can do some very intelligent things like provide actionable advisory, create credit reports for lenders and so on. And so that's the making it easier to build. But there's also the other side, which is make it easier to adopt. When you think about most smallholder farmers in the world, they're not walking around with state-of-the-art smartphones, right? So either it's a basic smartphone or it's a feature phone, sometimes no devices. So how do they even access all of the DPI use cases that governments are setting up? And we're seeing now in India, in Uttar Pradesh, in Maharashtra, where COSS does some fantastic work, how access to an AI agent that you can call into a number and access, or just use on a basic smartphone, can help farmers just say things like, I want a loan, and then have agentic AI do the hard work of stitching together their proof of who they are, what do they qualify for, find the right providers, and just seamlessly provide them with an answer. All of this safely, in a privacy-preserving way, compliant with local laws and regulations. So I think that's really the power I see. It's DPI raised to the power of AI.
No, I completely agree with you. I like that, DPI raised to the power of AI. Thank you, Dipika, for sharing that. Pivoting a little bit to how important it is to have local ecosystem partners integrate on the entire DPI journey. I want to specifically ask Mr. Guenoun, who has worked very closely on the project Maharat, the project from FMPS. So Mr. Guenoun, what are the challenges and lessons learned through the journey while you partnered to deploy Project Maharat for FMPS?
Yes, thank you, Zeena. My main take out from this project is that Maharat was built on a DPI, which is a Diksha that Mr. Boutayeb just talked about. And it's not just on-the-shelf product that was used. It comes with a whole ecosystem of partners. And that ecosystem is what makes this project succeed, because they were enablers. They brought expertise, training, and it was the collaboration that made this project succeed. The second thing that I saw in this project is the time to market. Yeah. So because of the existing solution that was up and running in India for hundreds of millions of persons, so there was no doubt about its capacity to fit the needs of FMPS. So it was very quick. It was a matter of weeks that to have a first version of the solution up and running, and that was possible because of this open source and of the support of the community. And the third thing that I found interesting is the capacity of this solution to have customization and evolutions, extensions that can be brought locally for the needs of FMPS. So if it was a closed solution, it wouldn't be possible, or it would be very costly.
Right.
It was, in fact, very quick to do some customization. For instance, the translation into Arabic
Right.
of the content and of the menus, of the screens of the application. That was done very smoothly. And then FMPS had also a very interesting added value with some features, such like competency framework, which is, I think Mr. Boutayeb talked about it. It's a set of competency that the educators must have that were broken down into micro competencies, each micro competency linked to content, linked to a set of questions that can be randomly affected to the person who followed the courses, and to do quizzes to verify if he had understood what he has learned. This part was a very important part for FMPS that wasn't in the original DPI, but the capacity of the solution to take evolutions, its extensibility, made it possible to have it in the product very, very smoothly. So that was the third point. And the last point that I find also interesting is that the vision of FMPS, as it was with Mr. Boutayeb for MOSIP, to be first successful implementation of a DPI in Morocco, so that this experience can be used to share with other institutions in the education business, but also to serve as a demonstration to the stakeholders to motivate them to build an ecosystem, a local ecosystem that can push and that can push the DPI philosophy in Morocco and made it happen also here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guenoun. No, absolutely, I agree with you with regard to it being open source, and therefore, any other features which you are going ahead and building on top of it, that becomes really valuable for the foundation and the preschool educators. Coming back to you, Ramesh, I know Dipika spoke about DPI to the power of AI. Could you touch upon a little bit on the role that COSS plays today, where AI is concerned, where DPI journeys, with DPI journeys for countries?
Yeah, as Dipika said, I think AI has the ability to supercharge DPI, right? And hence DPI to the power of AI. It's already being used effectively in certain cases. It can help drive inclusion much more because of voice interface. The farmer case was talked about, but there are many cases where, especially illiterate populations, voice becomes a game changer, right? Voice is being used even now with UPI or for payments in India and so on, just with a simple feature phone. So inclusion's a big one. Fraud detection is being used already fairly effectively in catching fraud. But one important thing to remember is that it's DPI to the power of AI. The base number is still DPI. So if your DPI is not effective, then that power doesn't have as much of an effect, right? So it's very important to think about, the DPI itself. Is it crafted correctly? Does it, provide you the right data? Data is needed for AI to work effectively, right? Whether in multicultural, multi-language environments and so on, and DPI gives you a lot of data to do that. Again, the thing that we've got to be careful about, while the cutting edge of AI is moving fast, if you don't take the time to have the right DPI at the base, the multiplicative or the exponential effect is much lesser. I also think the DPI approach, which if you think at the core, it's about minimalism and modularity. Don't create monolithic systems, create building blocks and use those building blocks. The same approach actually should be used for AI for DPI. So create AI building blocks, which does one thing. So it could be, something for translation specifically or something for OCR, right? Things can be very effective, right? When you think of it in a modular way. And typically for DPI to deliver value to a citizen or the end user, you've got a DPI workflow that typically is there. So using building blocks to leverage that in your workflow. And at the front end, we talked, Dipika touched on agentic, right? AI. Having public agents that do specific things. You have an agent specifically for health. You have an agent specifically as an advisor for farmers and so on. So thinking about agents, building blocks, and probably, in the workflows can help accelerate adoption and increase the effectiveness of DPI.
So 2 takeaways: get the DPI foundation right, and for that get your data right, and then you can go ahead and look at DPI to the power of AI and look at exponential value. Yeah. Thank you, Ramesh, for that. Getting to more on the, we said the technology is just about 20%. A lot of it is to do with programs and policy. So Mr. Boutayeb, I would like to understand from you, how do governments balance innovation with trust, privacy, and accountability when considering DPI approach? What guidance would you give to other ministries or countries considering DPI-led reforms?
It's difficult to give advice to other governments also.
Sure.
But I'll try to I prepare something, but I prefer give it from how I feel that. First, I think that there is the what to do and how to do it. The what to do, as Ramesh said, there is this DPI foundation that because the main objective is to deliver added value to the citizens. That's the main question. And if we have this railway, there's the rail that will help to facilitate the life of a huge number or huge percentage of the population of our developing countries, we have to pursue this objective and to do what we have to do. And you say in your question, innovation, trust, accountability. They are linked. First, we have to trust in our capabilities and to trust in proven solution and to trust in teams that will work with us to put this project one by one, not only the whole things, but it depends on the country, on the circumstances, and we can begin with ID, but it's better if we can begin with ID, but if there is some other, for example, in data exchange or in, the important is to begin, because it gives a momentum to continue working and to, and trust is important. And we have, secondly, to have this responsible that are aware of what is DPI, not technically speaking, but philosophically, it's the approach. What is DPI? This transparency feature, this openness, this security by design, privacy by design, this reuse. Because if we are in the reuse approach, we also will build our system with modules. It will be modularity which will be there because we are thinking about reusing. And so DPI, the foundational DPI is necessary. But if we have a project like Maharat, we can go directly to that and give this added value to these people. So the how you must have a clear vision. If you don't have a clear vision, it will not give you anywhere. The second, you have to build trust in the team. For example, I take Maharat. It's a very wonderful example of real trust between us in FMPS and COSS and Google and the other partners and MedTech. And in less than 1 year, we were able to develop where we want to go, and to have more expectations as we continue working. Accountability, I think there is a problem and as a past responsible in government with open source. I want to stop here because responsible don't want to take responsibility. Because open source, we have to take it to take responsibility, to build around it, to match it with other parts and at the end of the day, it will be your responsibility. If you prepare an RFP and have someone giving you something packaged, if it doesn't work, it's the problem of this well-known integrator who didn't do the job. I urge all the responsible to take the responsibility because it's sovereignty at the end of the day. So if we want to be sovereign technically, we have to take our responsibility and to choose definitely to work with open source in open source ecosystem and to take benefit of all the proven DPG that are in the field. That's my answer.
Thank you very much. Very valuable there, talking about sovereignty and making sure it's open source so that you have control of what you're doing. I know we are running out of time, but I'll just go with one more question for Ravi. The dominant narrative in the DPI world is that DPI use cases are built exclusively by the government to create rails for public sector service delivery. We are now seeing models emerge across the global south where DPIs are co-created with private sector to aid in delivery of private sector services. What is your take on this development, Ravi?
Well, a great question, by the way, and this may be a bit of a contrarian personal view. So for the next 15 seconds, I will speak not as a World Bank employee, but in my personal capacity. And I'm on record before joining the bank having written and spoken about this. And look, DPI was never intended to be exclusively about governments, as being of, for, and by governments in some sense, and exclusively as a relationship between governments and the citizen. But somehow it seems to have become so. And to me, the core idea of DPI is that it should be public-spirited for the public benefit and to create public value, and not about whether it is owned and operated and controlled by the public sector. So that is my personal view. Now I'll get to, back to being an employee of the World Bank. Look, delivery of public services is key. And, but those services can be delivered and your citizenry have a range of needs that can't just be catered to by the government. There are any number of needs, and I just highlighted several needs that a farmer has, right? I mean, that go way beyond any assistance that the government is providing directly to the farm, right? So these services, can be delivered by the government, but a large part of them need to be delivered by the private sector. Because governments just aren't, they just don't have the capacity or the expertise to do it. So let's take an example of how DPI philosophy, as I would call it, is enabling the creation of all manner of very interesting services. So the Beacon Protocol, again, comes from, what is famously the Koramangala, somebody called it the Koramangala Mafia in Bangalore. So let's go with that, and the Beacon Protocol. Beacon Protocol is basically, the way I think of Beacon Protocol is two people that don't speak the same language. Beacon sits in between the two of them and makes them speak and understand each other perfectly. Just to keep it very simple, right? So there is an app called Namma Yatri, which means Nama, our Yatri. This is in Kannada, in Bangalore, from Bangalore or Karnataka, which means our travelers. It is a ride-hailing app that basically ensures that producers, which is your auto rickshaw drivers, get to keep the entire producer surplus as compared to any of your ride-sharing apps like Uber, etc., that tend to charge about 30%. So the intermediary is capturing all the surplus in several of those apps, whereas Namayatri gives all of that surplus to the producer of the service, which is the auto rickshaw driver, for a simple flat fee of an annual fee. It's almost like a subscription fee, right? So if you think about, and if you look at the origins, it wasn't the government that designed it. It was the auto rickshaw drivers union and the startup that got together, and they were like, hey, we can use this Beacon Protocol and see what comes out of it. And today, it is one of the greatest success stories, which has forced big majors like Uber and Ola in India to change their business model. Now, that is transformation. Yeah. And that, to me, is a great example of why DPI thinking or DPI philosophy should not be trapped within the walls of our bureaucracies and governments.
No, agree with you. I mean, it is very, very powerful when you can have the public and the private sector come together for, social good.
Absolutely,
it is, yeah.
Look,
yeah.
PPPs are key. Public-private partnerships are key, right? Because the complexity of social challenges that we are dealing with, no one actor, not the public sector, not the private sector alone, and not the third sector, no one actor can solve it by themselves. And what we need is more of public-private partnerships. And hopefully, the next evolution of DPI will be a lot more about public-private partnerships.
Thank you, Ravi. I know there's no time. I had a few more questions, but I'm going to be wrapping up. So as we do that, one message comes through very clearly, that foundational ID is no longer just a tool for identification. It is a critical layer of our digital public infrastructure and a catalyst for multi-sectoral transformation. So it is a public good, so one that, when done right, can accelerate transformation across sectors and help countries deliver on, like Mr. Boutayeb said, inclusion, trust, dignity, innovation in the digital age. I want to thank all of you, panelists, for moving the conversation beyond the what to the how, right? Sharing practical lessons, honest trade-offs, and country experiences that make this agenda real. And thank you for the audience for listening. Should you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the panelists after this session, because I don't think we have time for questions. I don't know if there are. No time for questions, so please feel free to reach out to the panelists directly. Thank you very much. I appreciate your sharing.